From a postural restoration perspective, all humans are a left AIC right BC pattern. That pattern is not something that is a diagnosis. It's not something that has to be cured. It's not something that has to be necessarily fixed. We are built as a left AIC right BC patterned individual, simply because that pattern defines right dominance. The left AIC pattern results in a pelvis that's turned more to the right, with a body weight that shifts more to the right, and then a torso that has to counter-rotate back to the left to stay straight. That's what the left AIC right BC pattern is. It's a description of this phenomenon that's built into all of us because of this bigger right diaphragm, how our brain functions, and our brain's preference to pay attention to the right side of our visual world, which I've discussed in lots of different videos. All of these influences coming together and our inherent asymmetry of where our organs are placed, all of these systems, these asymmetrical systems coalesce, come together to produce a very predictable pattern of right dominance that postural restoration calls the left AIC right BC pattern. But the important thing to realize is just because you're a left AIC right BC pattern, and you always will, it does not mean that someone will always be in pain because of it. And that's what this video is about. So again, just to reiterate, we are all left AIC right BC patterns because we are right dominant humans. Let's get that out of the way. So it's not something to necessarily be fixed or cured of, and it's not a diagnosis. Now, when I first started doing PRI, I was a personal trainer, and I technically still am. And I was trying to work PRI into my training, but I needed practice, and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I needed a lot of experience. I had to build up experience. And so what I did, because I worked at a dance studio at night, I would test every dance student I could get my hands on. And they pretty much all let me. And what I found was, whether people were in pain or not in pain, they were all testing with a pelvis forward on the left side, and they would all be lacking range of motion in their shoulders, either in one or both. Now, again, like I said, some were in pain, some were not in pain at all. They couldn't understand why the testing that I was doing on them, when their leg wouldn't move or their right arm wouldn't really move, for the adduction drop test and the shoulder internal rotation test, and some others, and their neck. Then once I had more confidence, I took the neck courses, then I started to test necks also. But the same pattern developed, or there was no real pattern. Some people were in pain and others were not. And the people who were not in pain could not understand at all why the testing that I was showing, why that would actually cause pain. They're like, well, I don't know pain, so I don't understand why someone else would be in pain. And that's the thing. It's hard to figure out. But I've never come across, I don't think I've ever truly come across someone who's come to me and has been in a neutral situation through their pelvis and the rib cage unless they've done PRI previously. So why are some people in pain while others are not? So I think I came up with a list of 5. So this is my 5. Number 1, some people are just more bodily aware. If you're a personal trainer or a physical therapist, or you do anything in that realm, strength and conditioning, you find that some people are very aware of their bodies and some people are not aware of their bodies at all. They're aware of their position in space. They're aware of their position of their body in space. Some people are not whatsoever. Other people pick up skills very quickly. Maybe just say they're athletic and they can do physical activities very easily and very well. Others struggle to do it. It's no different than someone who picks up a sport very quickly, and some people really learn how to do PRI techniques very easily and very quickly, most likely because they just have that kinesthetic intelligence. So if you look up 8 different types of intelligence, there's languages, there's music, there's mathematics. I think there's 8 from some Harvard classification system. But another one was athleticism, like the way people have this kinesthetic awareness of their body and kinesthetic intelligence. Maybe they're just better athletes. They just know how to use their body. They just move better. That's a neurological thing. That's a brain issue. It's not a muscle issue necessarily. Some people are just better at movement than others. So that would be my number 1. Number 2, pathology. Pathology is when you have range of motion that you shouldn't have under those conditions. So for example, if you have a pelvis that's forward on the left side, okay, in that position, your straight leg raise, which I'll show you a picture of, that straight leg raise should not go past 90 degrees. It really shouldn't pass much, it shouldn't go much past 70 most likely. That's because the attachment site of the hamstring at the bottom of this ischium here is back and up. And when that happens, it puts the starting position of that hamstring in a further back position, so the leg shouldn't go as high. If it does go to 90 degrees or past 70 to 80 to 90 and further, that means they have pathology. They have a range of motion in that hamstring that really shouldn't be there, dictated by the position that the pelvis is in and where that attachment site is. When people, and so that's one area of pathology in the left hip, and the other one would be in the front of the left hip. If they have the ability to extend their left hip all the way down to a table during this extension drop test, I think it's called the Thomas test also, not positive about that. But if their leg goes all the way down to the table, which would be extension of the hip, yet their pelvis is in a flexed position, if it's in a flexed position, they should not have a full extension of the hip test. So if it does go all the way down, it's highly likely that they've loosened the ligaments in the front of their hip joint. So their hip joint is unstable in the front. So that's another place of pathology. It's very, very common. Most people who don't have that pathology probably are not in pain. I see people who, the vast majority, have full extension or close to full extension of their left hip when their left hip is in a flexed position. It should be limited. And in that situation, that's an unstable hip joint. So that pathology creates instability through the rest of the system, and now the system has to compensate. So anytime you find pathology in any joints, joint ranges of motion that they have that really shouldn't be there because of the position of their pelvis and their rib cage, that's a contributing factor to developing pain over time. Number 3 is time under tension, TUT, T-U-T. In strength training, it's talking about how long you are subjecting a muscle to tension, maybe the length of the repetition. The longer a muscle is under tension, the more a growth stimulus will be created. In this, the way I'm using it, however, is that the longer that you're in a stressed position, so if you're stuck in a left AIC pattern or you're in this left AIC pattern and you never get to your left leg appropriately, things are going to start to get compressed and tense because you're always on one side. The right side has to be decompressed and the left side has to be compressed. When you're on one side constantly, tension will start to go up, and the longer you're under that tension, the longer you have to compensate, something is going to give, and eventually pain will start. So even those people who I was testing back in my dance studio days who weren't in pain, doesn't mean they're not going to be in pain 5 or 10 years from now. So that's the important thing. Time under tension. The longer the organism, the person is in this position without ever getting out of that position, the more likely something is going to have to give to create this decompression, this fake decompression that they couldn't get otherwise. Real quick, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, could you like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, or put a comment in the comments section? I'd appreciate it. Thank you. 4. This part is a bit more philosophical, but I would say personality type. People with aversive personalities, people who, if they walk into a room, they start to pick out things they don't like about it. They'll start to pick out things about what they don't like about any situation they get into. Other people, they'll walk into a room or a situation and be excited by what they see. Aversive personalities pick out the things they don't like. The more dislikes someone has, my guess is the tighter they're going to be. And the more tense their body is, the more likely they're going to end up in pain. And I would also say, again, you can't really quantify this. It's hard to say, but it is my belief that people who have more dislikes and have more aversive personalities are more likely to have stronger patterning because of the tension that's coming from their mind in relation to their environment. It's not just a physical thing. That's the important thing to remember. And interestingly, with someone I'm very close to, someone I know personally and I've known for many, many years, I could never get anything to change with this person. Every PRI technique, nothing changed. This person didn't want, and they didn't want to really do many either. They don't like anyone touching their body. They're very just, holding on too tight. And magically, I had a feeling about this person. And then magically, last summer, I got all his tests to change. How did everything change? How did his neck finally loosen up? How did his adduction drop test finally change? 3 things. I got him to start wearing reading glasses. That was number 1, because I did see him over-focusing. So that was one thing. But then beyond that, he got a job and a girlfriend. And wow, his body was way more relaxed, and I got him neutral simply through just walking with left peripheral vision sense. So I had a feeling that was going to happen because I knew the circumstances of his life, and it did happen. So personality. The more open someone is to change, because a lot of people, aversives, and most people in general, they freak out when change occurs. They hold on too tight. They can't deal with it. I think that's going to get their tension levels up and more than likely put them in or keep them in a stronger pattern. People who are open to life and can go with the flow. My friend Gina, who I made who I made a video about a couple months ago, she had the left piriformis pain. I said a few times that she's an easygoing person. 2 sessions, she was completely out of pain. And she went from not being barely able to walk to being out of pain in just 2 sessions. Because I said, she's got a very easygoing personality. She dances salsa, she laughs a lot, she's just a nice person. She doesn't get too upset about things. So I would say personalities, people who watch too much political TV, probably not gonna be nice and relaxed. So personality would be number 4. And number 5, I'll just say happiness. How happy are you? I think that goes a long way in resolving or being in pain. In fact, people who are depressed are 3 times more likely to have chronic pain than people who are not depressed. That was a study that I read not too long ago. So happiness is a big thing. Are you living in a full life? I remember my old football coach, my high school football coach, said, things don't hurt as bad when you win. And it's true. When you lose or you get your butts kicked, everything hurts so much more. But when you win, those things that normally would be hurting a lot, you barely notice. So happiness, where your mind is, if your mind is generally in a happy place, you're not going to notice. These things will come and go. You won't fixate on the pain. And once you fixate on the pain or concentrate on the symptoms too much, and I've been there, and I'm still there with the ring in my ears, and I've had to teach myself to ignore it to the best of my abilities. But the more you concentrate on it, the more you focus on it, the bigger it becomes, the bigger the threat is in your own mind. And now you have this negative cycle of energy that gets permeated throughout your body, and you get stuck in this self-reinforcing cycle of negative energy and pain. But once you start to become more happy in life, doing things that you enjoy, having a job that you enjoy, being around people that you enjoy, your environment is a huge thing. The people around you is a huge thing. That's why one of the things about happiness is you need to eliminate negative influences from your life. Otherwise, it will be transferred to you. There's no way around it. So happiness, putting yourself in a place in life that promotes flow states, and I've made a video about flow, the whole concept of flow, and being in a happier state, which can be difficult if you're constantly in pain, but you have to look outside the physical body itself. You have to examine your situation in life as it is currently. And if you're in a happier place, I'm pretty sure that your pain is going to be a little bit less. If you are miserable with your life, and I understand that because I've been there, your pain is probably going to be a lot worse. So I would just say happiness would be number 5 in regards to why some patterned people don't have pain, while other patterned people with the exact same patterns do have a lot of pain.